The Xelarian scout ships formed a silent line above Earth's atmosphere, their crystalline hulls catching the sunlight like giant diamonds. Captain Mock of the lead vessel scanned the readings with 4 of his 6 eyes narrowed in contempt. Primitive technology. No unified planetary defense. Multiple competing nation-states, he reported to his commander through the neural link. Exactly as our intelligence suggested. The Xelarian Empire had conquered 17 worlds in the past decade alone. Earth would be their 18th, a minor addition hardly worth mentioning in the Imperial records. They had selected this blue planet precisely because it seemed so easy, a quick victory to boost morale among the Imperial forces. Proceed with standard intimidation protocol, came the order from the Xelarian High Command. 3 days later, the first Xelarian invasion fleet, 27 warships carrying over 40,000 troops, vanished without a trace. No distress signals, no debris, nothing. In an underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Lee of the Terran Fukov Force reviewed the footage of the fleet's destruction. The TFF had existed for only 15 years, formed after human scientists had first detected alien signals and realized Earth was not alone. Unlike the public space agencies, the TFF prepared not for friendly contact, but for the worst-case scenario. They underestimated us, Lee said, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitors. As we expected they would. Major Kim nodded beside her. The orbital mines worked perfectly. They never even detected them. The TFF had secretly deployed thousands of stealth mines in Earth's orbit over the past decade. Looking like space debris to most scans, they contained the most advanced weapons humanity had ever developed. They'll send more ships, Lee said. Many more. She wasn't wrong. 2 weeks later, 3 Xelarian battle groups appeared at the edge of the solar system. This time, they approached cautiously, scanning for traps. On the bridge of the TSS Indomitable, Earth's first true warship hidden in the shadow of Jupiter, Commander Lee watched the alien vessels advance. The ship had been built in secret, using technology reverse-engineered from a crashed scout ship found in Antarctica decades earlier. All stations report ready, Commander, said Major Kim, his face serious as he handed her the tactical tablet. Lee studied the display showing the approaching Xelarian forces. They had brought nearly 100 ships this time, clearly not taking any chances after losing their first fleet. They still think we're easy prey, she told Kim and the bridge crew. They believe the first fleet encountered some natural phenomenon or automated defense system. They don't understand who they're dealing with. She stood and addressed the crew. The Terran Fukov Force exists for one reason: to ensure humanity's survival. Today, we show these invaders exactly what that means. Lee gave the command, and the Indomitable moved out from behind Jupiter, revealing itself to the surprised Xelarian fleet. Simultaneously, 5 other TFS ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. The aliens hesitated, clearly shocked by the presence of ships they hadn't detected. That moment of hesitation was all the TFF needed. Execute Fukov Protocol Alpha, Lee ordered calmly. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. The TFF ships employed weapons and tactics the Xelarians had never encountered. Where the aliens expected primitive resistance, they found precision orbital strikes from weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Where they sought easy conquest, they discovered the nightmare of human determination and ingenuity. Half the Xelarian fleet was destroyed before they could even return fire effectively. The rest retreated in disarray, jumping to faster-than-light travel with damage to many vessels. On the Xelarian command ship limping back toward their homeworld, Admiral Zex struggled to understand what had happened. How could they have such technology? He demanded of his science officers. Our intelligence said they had barely achieved limited space travel. It appears, Admiral, said his second-in-command, that they wanted us to believe that. Back on the Indomitable, Commander Lee accepted the congratulations of her crew with a reserved nod. She knew this was only the beginning. Send the recording of the battle to all TFF bases, she ordered. and prepare a report for the Security Council. The Xilarians will be back, and they'll bring allies." Major Kim looked concerned. "Do you think we can stand against their full military might?" Lee's expression remained confident. "They don't understand humans, Kim. We've spent our entire history fighting each other. Now that we have a common enemy, they have no idea what they've awakened." Word spread quickly throughout the galaxy as the surviving Xilarian ships returned with tales of the battle. In councils and command centers across a dozen star systems, military leaders reviewed what little information they had about this previously ignored species. The humans were not to be underestimated, and the Terran Fukov force had just announced humanity's presence to the stars. Captain Park stood before 30 new TFF recruits in the underground training facility. These men and women represented the best soldiers from military forces around the world. They had passed countless tests of strength, intelligence, and psychological resilience to reach this point. Yet, as they looked at the small, unassuming captain, many wondered if they had made a mistake. "The Fukov protocol is simple," Captain Park explained, her voice soft but commanding. "We hit them where they don't expect, how they don't expect, and with weapons they don't understand." A soldier in the front row raised his hand. "Ma'am, with respect, the Xilarians have technology centuries beyond ours. How can we possibly surprise them?" Captain Park smiled. "Because they think exactly like you just did, Lieutenant Han." She pressed a button on her wrist device, and the wall behind her became transparent, revealing a laboratory where scientists worked on what looked like advanced armor. "This is why." The Ravian combat suit. The recruits stared in awe at the sleek black armor. It appeared both primitive and futuristic at once, with sections that looked like simple carbon fiber alongside components that glowed with strange energy. Elitarian and most other galactic powers develop technology in a linear fashion, Park continued. They build upon what came before. Humans are different. We leap. We combine. We break rules because we often don't fully understand them in the first place. She gestured, and one of the lab technicians brought out what looked like a piece of the armor. "This section, it's made from common Earth materials, carbon fiber, graphene, combined in ways the aliens never considered because their material science took a different path centuries ago. Their scanners barely register it because it doesn't match any known alien alloy." Another recruit spoke up. "But Captain, they must have overwhelming firepower. How does unusual armor help us fight back?" "Good question, Surgeon Joe." Park touched her wrist device again, and a hologram appeared showing the TFS soldier in a Ravian suit facing a Xilarian warrior. The alien fired an energy weapon, but instead of damaging the suit, the energy seemed to flow around it and then, impossibly, back toward the alien. The Ravian doesn't just protect. It adapts, redirects, and absorbs. Then it learns. 3 months later, deep in Xilarian territory, a squad of 5 TFA operatives moved silently through the shadows of an enemy prison compound. The facility orbited a gas giant in a star system 20 light-years from Earth. Intelligence had confirmed that 17 human scientists were being held there, captured when their research vessel was taken 2 weeks before the first Xilarian attack on Earth. Sergeant Choi, the team's tech specialist, pressed her gloved hand against the security panel. Her Ravian suit interfaced with the alien system, the microscopic filaments extending from her fingertips and penetrating the Xilarian technology. 6 guards in the main control room. She whispered over the secure comm. "Security system is adapting to my intrusion. I have maybe 2 minutes before they detect us." Lieutenant Kang, the squad leader, nodded. "Jin, take point. Han and Buck, secure our extraction route." The team moved with practiced precision. Their Ravian suits bent light around them, not making them truly invisible, but rather blending them into the background in a way that confused both electronic sensors and organic eyes. When they reached the cell block, they found the human scientists in poor condition. Many showed signs of experimental procedures. "What are those things you're wearing?" one scientist whispered as they were being freed. "The reason we're all getting out of here alive," Kang replied simply. The alarm sounded just as they began moving toward the extraction point. 3 Xilarian guards appeared at the end of the corridor, their weapons charged. "Scatter pattern," Kang ordered calmly. The TFS soldiers didn't take cover as expected. Instead, they moved toward the guards in an unpredictable zigzag pattern. The aliens fired, but the energy bolts seemed to slide off the Ravian suits or disperse harmlessly. Before the confused guards could adjust, the humans were upon them. The fight lasted seconds. The Ravian suits enhanced the soldiers' strength and speed while predicting and countering the aliens' moves. As they reached the hangar bay where their stealth ship waited, a full security team blocked their path. The odds looked impossible. "Fukov Protocol Omega," Kang said quietly. The 5 TFS soldiers simultaneously activated a specific function of their suits. The Ravian armor began to emit pulses that interfered with the Xilarians' neural communication. The aliens stumbled, confused and unable to coordinate. They escaped with all 17 scientists. The mission, considered impossible by conventional military standards, was completed with 0 casualties. 2 days later, on the Xilarian command carrier Inevitable Dominance, Admiral Vex personally interrogated the prison facility's commander. "Explain again how 5 humans defeated your entire security force," he demanded. The commander's scales had paled with fear. "They moved like ghosts. Our weapons couldn't touch them. Their armor, it seemed to learn from each attack." "Impossible." Vex slammed his appendage down. "They are primitives." "With respect, Admiral, they are not." The commander's voice shook. "Humans shouldn't be able to do this. They adapt too quickly. It's as if they evolved specifically for warfare." Admiral Vex turned to his science officer. "I want everything we have on human evolution and biology. There must be a weakness." The science officer hesitated. "Sir, our latest analysis suggests their greatest strength may be that they don't follow expected patterns. Where our species developed methodically, humans jumped. They survived countless near extinctions. Their planet's history forced them to adapt constantly." For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vex felt a sensation he couldn't immediately identify. After a moment, he recognized it. It was fear. The Ardothian ambassador shifted uncomfortably in the too small chair designed for humans. His 8-foot frame barely fit in the space, and his 4 arms struggled to find a natural position. Across the polished oak table, Commander Lee maintained her diplomatic smile, though her eyes remained watchful and calculating. The meeting room inside the TFS diplomatic wing had been hastily modified to accommodate their unusual visitor. This marked the first official contact between humans and a non-Xilarian species. 6 months ago, no one on Earth had confirmed that aliens existed. Now they were hosting peace talks. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," the ambassador said, his translation device converting his harmonic language into flat English. "The Ardothian Confederation has watched recent events with great interest." Commander Lee nodded. "We're glad to have this opportunity for peaceful dialogue. Unlike some species we've encountered, you asked permission before entering our space." The ambassador's skin rippled with color, the Ardothian equivalent of nervous laughter. "Yes, well, after what happened to the Xilarian fleets, protocol seemed advisable." He paused. "Your species has impressed many across the galactic rim. The Xilarians have begun calling you the unpredictable ones." "We prefer determined," Lee replied. "But we understand intimidation is sometimes necessary when dealing with bullies." Major Kim stood silently in the corner, recording the conversation. His face remained neutral, but inwardly he felt pride at Lee's confident handling of the situation. 6 months ago, she had been a submarine commander. Now she represented humanity to the stars. The ambassador leaned forward. "Commander, there are over 30 spacefaring civilizations in this sector alone. Many are watching Earth closely. The Xilarians have dominated trade and territory for centuries. No one expected resistance. Is that why you're here? To assess the resistance. Lee asked. I am here because the Ardothian Confederation believes in balance. The Xilarians have been unchecked for too long. The ambassador's colors shifted to deeper blues. We wish to understand humans better. Lee smiled. And what have you learned so far? That your official military technology is centuries behind the galactic standard, yet your Terran Fukov force employs capabilities that confound our best analysts. That you were thought to be confined to a single planet, yet you somehow extracted prisoners from a high-security Xilarian facility 20 light-years away. The ambassador's colors pulsed rapidly. It makes many nervous. Being underestimated has its advantages, Lee said. We'd prefer peaceful relations with all species, but we will not allow threats to humanity to go unanswered. The ambassador nodded his elongated head. The Ardothian Confederation would like to propose a non-aggression pact with possibilities for cultural and scientific exchange. We would welcome that, Lee said, maintaining her composure despite the historic significance of the moment. After the ambassador departed, Major Kim approached Lee. Do you trust them? Trust is earned, she replied. But this opens possibilities. The Xilarians won't stop coming, and we need to understand the wider galaxy. On the Ardothian diplomatic vessel departing Earth orbit, the ambassador met with his aides. Their capability exceeds all predictions, he told his staff. But most remarkable is that they've achieved this while remaining completely isolated from galactic civilization. His chief analyst gestured with his lower arms. It defies explanation. Humans should not have been able to defeat Xilarian forces. Their approach to technology, warfare, even diplomacy, it follows no recognizable pattern. Send word to the Confederation. The ambassador decided. Recommend immediate diplomatic recognition of Earth. The balance of power is shifting. Across the stars, the ripples of human resistance spread. On 6 different worlds, alien powers reassessed their intelligence on humans. In the cold chamber of the Telvari Hegemony Strategic Command, 12 elders reviewed footage smuggled from Xilarian databases. These humans, said the first elder, they develop technology through intuitive leaps rather than incremental advancement. Unpredictable and dangerous. The Xilarians request our support against them, said another. The Xilarians request our ships as sacrifices, the first elder corrected. We will wait and observe. In the floating cities of the Nath Collective, the High Strategist consulted with her council. The humans employ biological components in their battle technology that our sensors cannot penetrate, she explained. Their Ravian systems appear to use the wearer's neural patterns to adapt in real time. Should we approach them for alliance? Asked the junior member. Not yet, the High Strategist decided. But neither will we join the Xilarians' coalition against them. In the methane clouds of Jupiter, where the secret listening post of the Vrain observers had monitored human communications for decades, the chief observer made an unprecedented decision. We reveal ourselves to the humans, he announced. Better to be recognized as friendly watchers than mistaken for hostiles. The Terran Fukov force had changed calculations across star systems, turning Earth from an afterthought into a central concern for galactic security councils. Back in her private office, Commander Lee reviewed the reports coming in from TFN Intelligence. 17 different alien species had been detected observing Earth from various distances. 3 had attempted to establish covert communications. It's happening faster than we expected, she told the holographic projection of Captain Park, who was currently stationed on Mars. The galaxy is taking sides. Park's projection nodded. The Fukov Protocol was designed for military engagement, not galactic politics. Lee smiled grimly. Then we adapted, just as our Ravian suits adapt. The Xilarians are gathering allies for another attack. We need to be ready. The new recruits are performing exceptionally well, Park reported. The Raven Mark I suits are exceeding expectations. Good, Lee said. because I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage. The Accelarians won't underestimate us again." As she ended the transmission, Lee looked at the star map displayed on her wall. So many civilizations, so many potential threats, and potential allies. The isolation humanity had known throughout its history was gone forever. And the Terran Fukov force stood as the first line of defense against whatever came next. Retrieve, the attack began without warning. Across 3 human colonies, Mars Base Alpha, Europa Station, and the recently established outpost on Proxima Centauri, alarms blared as Scalarian warships appeared from hyperspace. Civilians ran for shelters while colonial defense forces scrambled to defensive positions. On Mars, Colonel Han watched in horror as his tactical display showed over 60 Xalarian ships entering orbit. The red planet's defenses included only 4 small patrol vessels and a handful of ground-based weapons platforms. "This is Colonel Han at Mars Base Alpha," he transmitted on the secure TFF channel. "We are under heavy attack. Civilian evacuation has begun, but we need immediate support." Similar calls came from the other colonies within minutes. The Xalarians had committed nearly half their fleet in a desperate attempt to crush human resistance. Their strategy was clear: hit the vulnerable colonies hard and fast, forcing Earth to either surrender or watch its people die. In her command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Lee assessed the incoming data with a calm that belied the gravity of the situation. Beside her, her senior staff waited tensely for orders. "They're hitting all 3 colonies simultaneously," Major Kim reported. "Estimated Xalarian forces include at least 200 capital ships and support vessels." Lee nodded. "And our forces in position. Ghost Squadron is deployed as planned near Mars. Units Spectre and Phantom are at Europa and Proxima, respectively." Ghost Squadron was the TFF's most elite combat unit, comprising only 50 soldiers equipped with the most advanced Ravian suits and 12 stealth vessels. They had been secretly stationed in the asteroid belt for exactly this scenario. "Ghost Squadron deployed," reported Major Yoon from the field, his voice crackling over the comm system. "We're outnumbered 30-1. Commander Lee nodded grimly. "Implement Operation Thunderclap." For 3 months, TFS scientists had worked on integrating captured Xalarian technology with human innovations. The result was a system that could infiltrate and override the aliens' neural command networks, but it had never been tested in actual combat. The risks were enormous. Major Yoon acknowledged the order. In space near Mars, Ghost Squadron activated their stealth systems and began their approach toward the Xalarian fleet. Lieutenant Ba piloted her tiny 1-person craft directly toward the largest enemy vessel, a dreadnought nearly 2 kilometers long. The Raven suit she wore inside her craft connected to her ship's systems, enhancing her reflexes and allowing her to evade detection. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she maneuvered between massive energy beams being fired at the Martian surface. "In position," she reported. "Initiating Phase 1. Around the massive Xalarian fleet, 11 other Ghost Squadron pilots mirrored her actions, each targeting a command ship. Meanwhile, the 38 ground operatives of the squadron had already landed on Mars and begun their part of Operation Thunderclap. Sergeant Jin led his team of 6 through the maintenance tunnels beneath Mars Base Alpha's main complex. Above them, they could hear the sounds of Xalarian ground forces engaging the colonial defenders. "Remember," Jin told his team, "we just need to hold out for 20 more minutes. The fleet operation is the key." In space, Lieutenant Ba had successfully attached her craft to the hull of the Xalarian dreadnought. Using tools specifically designed for this mission, she cut through the alien alloy and inserted a small device, no larger than her palm, into the ship's neural pathway system. "Thunderclap device planted," she reported. "Activating in 3, 2, 1. The device powered up, sending carefully calibrated signals into the Xalarian ship's systems. The signals contained code that mimicked the neural patterns of Xalarian commanders, but carried hidden instructions. Across the battlefield, 11 other devices activated simultaneously. What followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The Xilarian ships suddenly stopped firing at the colonies. Then, inexplicably to their crews, they began targeting each other. The carefully modified human code had infiltrated their command systems, creating confusion in the neural networks that controlled the vessels. On the bridge of the Xilarian flagship, Admiral Vex watched in horror as his weapons officers lost control of their stations. "Shut everything down," he roared. "Emergency protocols." But it was too late. Throughout the fleet, systems cascaded into failure as the thunderclap devices spread their influence from ship to ship through the Xilarians' own communication networks. Using captured Xilarian technology modified by human engineers, Ghost Squadron turned the enemy's own weaponry against them in a cascade of system failures. Ships fired upon their allies or shut down entirely. Landing craft crashed into each other. Communication became impossible. On Mars, the Xilarian ground forces suddenly lost coordination. Their neural implants, connected to the same networks as their ships, began receiving contradictory commands. Colonel Han couldn't believe what he was seeing. The alien soldiers who had been systematically overwhelming his defenses were now in disarray, some even attacking each other. "What's happening?" he asked when Sergeant Jin's team finally reached his position. Jin smiled grimly. "Operation Thunderclap." Commander Lee and the science team found a weakness in the Xilarians' neural technology. They're so connected that they're vulnerable to the right kind of signal. As the battle continued, the human forces pressed their advantage. The colonial defenders rallied, pushing back against the confused Xilarian troops. In space, the situation was even more dramatic. Dozens of alien ships had been destroyed by friendly fire before their commanders managed to implement emergency isolation protocols that cut their vessels off from the compromised network. 60% of enemy fleet compromised, Major Yoon reported. They're beginning to retreat from Mars orbit. Similar reports came in from Europa and Proxima Centauri. The Xilarians, facing an unprecedented technological attack they couldn't counter, were pulling back. By dawn, the surviving alien ships were in full retreat. What had begun as a devastating attack meant to crush human resistance had turned into the greatest victory for the TFF and humanity. In her command center, Commander Lee allowed herself a brief smile. "Casualties?" she asked. "Minimal on our side," Major Kim reported. "The colonies suffered some infrastructure damage, but civilian casualties are low thanks to the early warning systems." Lee nodded. "And the Xilarians? They lost at least 60 capital ships and dozens of smaller vessels. Their fleet is crippled. Send word to our allies among the Ardothians and others," Lee ordered. "The balance of power has shifted. The Xilarians are no longer the dominant force they once were. The turning point had come, and the galaxy would never be the same." Retries F. The peace treaty was signed aboard the neutral Ardothian diplomatic vessel hanging in space between Earth and Mars. Light from the distant sun filtered through the crystalline viewport, casting rainbow patterns across the ceremonial hall. Representatives from 17 galactic civilizations watched in respectful silence as the historic moment approached. Commander Lee stood tall in her formal TFL uniform, the silver and blue insignia gleaming under the lights. Across from her, the Xilarian High Commander Kex appeared diminished despite his imposing height. His scales had faded from their usual vibrant purple to a pale lavender, a sign of stress in his species. "The treaty will now be signed," announced the Ardothian mediator, his 4 arms raised in the traditional gesture of witness. Commander Lee stepped forward first, her movements confident as she pressed her thumb to the biometric scanner and then signed her name on the ancient paper document. The Ardothians had insisted on both digital and physical records, believing that peace required something tangible. The Xilarian High Commander approached next. His appendage trembled slightly as he pressed it to the document, leaving behind a faint purple imprint beside Lee's signature. "You could have destroyed us completely," he said quietly, his translator device barely picking up the words. Lee met his compound eyes steadily. "That was never our goal," she replied. "Humans don't seek conquest. We just refuse to be conquered." The Xelarian seemed puzzled by this concept. His species had expanded across the stars for centuries with a simple philosophy: dominate or be dominated. The idea of winning merely to secure peace seemed foreign to him. "The Treaty of Soul is now in effect," the Ardothian mediator declared. "Let it be known across the galaxy that the Xelarian Empire and the United Terran Worlds are now at peace." Applause rippled through the gathered diplomats. Many had come expecting to witness humanity's subjugation. Instead, they had seen the birth of a new galactic power. As the formal ceremony concluded, Captain Wang of the TFF vessel Determination prepared to escort the Xelarian delegation back to their home system as specified in the treaty terms. This final act, returning the defeated enemy safely home, was Commander Lee's idea, a demonstration of human honor. The Xelarian delegates boarded with visible trepidation. Despite the peace treaty, they clearly expected some form of treachery. Captain Wang noticed their nervous glances and the way they huddled together. "Please make yourselves comfortable," he told them through his translator. "The journey to your home system will take 3 days at standard speed. We have prepared quarters according to your environmental requirements." The lead Xelarian diplomat stared at him suspiciously. Why such consideration for the defeated? Wang smiled slightly. "Because peace is not just the absence of war, it's the beginning of understanding." Later, as the Determination entered faster than light travel, Captain Wang stood on the observation deck. The stars streaked past in beautiful blue-white lines. Earth was now just one of many points of light behind them. Lieutenant Min, a recent addition to his crew, approached hesitantly. "Captain, may I ask a question?" "Of course. What happens now?" the young lieutenant asked. "The war is over, but there's still so much we don't know about the galaxy." Wang turned from the viewport to face his junior officer. He saw in Min's expression the same mix of excitement and uncertainty that he had felt when he first joined the TFF years ago. "Now," Wang said with a slight smile, "the real work begins. The galaxy now knows that humans are not to be trifled with, but they have yet to learn that we can also be the most steadfast allies." He gestured to the stars streaming past. "There are wonders out there beyond our imagination, Lieutenant. Civilizations with art and music and science we've never dreamed of. Our job is to make sure humanity can explore them safely and share our own gifts in return." "Do you think the Xelarians will honor the peace?" Min asked. "They will," Wang replied confidently. "Not just because they fear us, but because we gave them a reason to respect us. We could have destroyed their fleet entirely at the Battle of Proxima Centauri, but we offered terms instead. That matters, even to the Xelarians." As if to emphasize his point, a small delegation of Xelarian diplomats entered the observation deck. After a moment's hesitation, they approached the 2 human officers. "Captain," the lead diplomat said formally, "we wish to understand more about your species. Your Fukoff force has shown capabilities that defy explanation." Wang nodded respectfully. "And we wish to understand yours better as well. Perhaps we can begin that exchange now." Back on Earth, Commander Lee stood in the TFF headquarters, looking at the newly installed galactic map. Dozens of civilizations were marked across thousands of star systems. Until recently, humanity had been unaware of all of them. "The Security Council has approved the expansion of the diplomatic corps," Major Kim reported as he entered. "And 6 more species have requested formal relations with Earth." Lee nodded. "Good. And the Ravian program?" "Captain Park reports that the technology is being adapted for exploration and scientific research." The Terran Fukoff force had secured humanity's place among the stars not just through force of arms, but through the indomitable spirit that had always defined their species. What had begun as Earth's last line of defense had become the vanguard of human expansion into a wider universe. Not as conquerors, but as equals among the galactic community. And somewhere out there, new challenges awaited. But humanity was ready. Retriclawed can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Nox's exoskeleton shifted in what might have been a shrug. They are already defeated. Your bacterial agent has shown them that Earth itself rejects their presence. Many will return to our homeworld. Some may stay, under new leadership. 6 months later, Commander, now Governor, Hannah Park walked along a restored beach in what had once been Busan. The sand had been cleansed of Talari terraforming materials, and native earth plants were beginning to reclaim the shore. The ocean sparkled in the afternoon sun, its color slowly returning to the blue her ancestors had known, rather than the purple the Talari had engineered. Nearby, human families from the first wave of returnees were building homes on the hillside. Their modern designs integrated naturally with the crystalline structures the reformed Talari had created. The agreement to share Earth had been controversial among both species, but already the joint restoration projects were showing promise. Engineers from both species had developed methods to gradually revert the planet's atmosphere to its original composition, while creating special habitation zones for Talari who wished to remain. The drilling operations into Earth's core had been permanently halted. "Governor Park," a voice called. Hannah turned to see Dr. Choi approaching along the beach. "The latest readings are promising. The native bacterial populations are reestablishing themselves even faster than we predicted. And the Talari adaptations. Proceeding well. Those who chose to stay are voluntarily modifying their biotech to work in harmony with Earth's microbiome, rather than against it." Hannah nodded, then paused as something caught her eye. Further down the beach, a human child was cautiously approaching a young Talari. The two species rarely interacted on such a personal level yet, separated by centuries of hostility and fundamental biological differences. The human child held out a small object, a shell collected from the shore. After a moment's hesitation, the Talari youth accepted it, examining the natural formation with obvious fascination. Hannah smiled, feeling the weight of 2 centuries of exile finally lifting from her shoulders. She reached for the vial of earth soil she still wore around her neck, opened it, and carefully emptied its contents onto the beach. "We've come home," she whispered. Earth belonged to all who would protect it now.